And our presenter today is Dave Dozer. Many of you have known and worked with Dave in the past, and actually, Dave is quite the Acumatica demo guru for us at this point. So I'm going to go ahead and turn things over to Dave so we can get right to the presentation. Dave, are you there?
I sure am. Appreciate it, Jeff, and we'll get rolling here. So to Jeff's point, we're going to be very focused on a specific area of the Acumatica ERP system today, and that's going to be the customer relationship management portion of the app. Now, with that said, for Acumatica, CRM really isn't just like a bolt-on type of thing or an afterthought. It really is more of a concept that is pervasive throughout multiple areas and multiple modules within the application. So it's really about things all the way from marketing up front to capturing of leads, all the way through managing opportunities, to converting those opportunities to actual sales, to converting prospects and leads to actual customers, and then monitoring and maintaining those relationships, as those customers mature and you begin to do more and more work with them. So just kind of setting the stage there, the concept of CRM within Acumatica isn't just a module or an area that you go to. It's really a whole concept throughout, and that's what we really want to focus on and look at and demonstrate today. So before we jump into those areas, we are still going to start with a general overview of what Acumatica is and give you a good kind of feeling for how you navigate through the application, what screens look like, since some of you this may be your first time looking at it in general. So, and then from there we'll jump into the marketing and then the opportunities and then that support concept as we move forward. So the first thing that we're going to look at here is a dashboard. So within Acumatica, a dashboard is a visual representation of data that is configured to a particular functional area or particular users. So we'll see today I'm looking at a sales manager dashboard because we're focused around the CRM pieces today, but that could very well be a production person. It could be the CFO. It could be any type of area within the business, and that dashboard is going to be tailored to that area. Now, there's a large number of out-of-the-box dashboards available, but we find during the implementation process, folks like to tweak those, add things here, take things away there, move things around. And it really is easy to do these. So this whole dashboard functionality here, so if you look at the right-hand side here, and I'm looking at my team sales bookings, I've got a nice little visual chart here of what my team has booked in each month of the year. But then over here on the left, I've got some key performance indicators. So I'm looking at total number of wins, total numbers of losses. And then down here in the left-hand side, you'll see I've got a more kind of list view of data where I'm looking at what my year-to-date sales versus the quota for each of my salespeople are. And the ability to see data either in a list like that, in a KPI, or in some sort of graphical representation is all baked in to the application. So it's not like a third-party reporting tool or anything like that that's integrated in. It's just a piece of Acumatica that's already built out. And then the best part is when I do want to change this or see data a little bit differently, I don't necessarily have to be a developer or really even a business analyst type of person to be able to set this up. As long as I have the appropriate security rights, I'm able to jump right in and modify what these dashboards look like. So you'll even notice in the upper right hand side I've got a little design button which puts me into an edit mode so I can real quickly and easily add a new component to the dashboard. So you'll see things like a chart, even embedded pages, data tables, all this sort of stuff. It just takes me through a little wizard to set those guys up. And then when I want to visually see something in a certain way, it's a matter of just dragging and dropping components to where I want them to appear on the screen, and you'll see how it kind of automatically sizes there for me and everything. So then if I don't like that, I can make it bigger. So it's a whole like graphical user interface around how I can manage these dashboards. So it's real simple, real easy to use. And then the nice thing with it too is as I create these visual representations of data, it automatically creates a drill down for me. So as an example, if I want to see these 92 wins and what data makes that up, I just click on that little KPI there, and it drills me down into the data that's making up that total number there. So again, that's not something I have to program or do special or anything like that to get that to happen. Just all kind of out of the box functionality there. So those are the pieces of information that are important to me, regardless of what my functional area is that I'm presented with. But then we get a little more into the nuts and bolts of navigating around the application. So if you direct your attention to the left-hand side here, this is what Acumatica refers to as workspaces. So we'll see things like sales orders, the pieces that we're talking about today, like marketing, opportunities, and support. And then if I click out here, I'll even see a menu of lots of other stuff that's available. So, to Jeff's point earlier, there's a lot of material that could be covered with Acumatica. So that's kind of why we're laser focusing some of these sessions. But these workspaces are really broken down into what you would consider a module in a lot of other ERP systems. So, for instance, if I go into my marketing here, I see menu options that are related to that particular area. However, just like the dashboards, the workspaces can be configured as well, whether that's taking an existing one like marketing or sales orders and adding new menu options to it, or totally creating one from scratch and saying, here's the functions that my operations people need to be able to use. Or, here's the things that in finance we need to be able to use, and really simplifying how users interact with the application. But another thing you'll definitely notice as we go through different menu options and different screens today is a lot of consistency. So even looking at the marketing here, you'll see I've got things like activities, profiles, processes, and reports. That terminology is going to be pervasive throughout all the different areas. So within a few minutes of looking at the application, you start to get a feel for basically where you go in each area to do the things that you need to do. And then at the top of each workspace is these buttons essentially that are quick action, so they take you right to something that you're going to do a lot on a daily basis. So it becomes very quick and easy to learn and interact with the system. And then you'll notice that each one of these guys has a little star beside it as well. So let's say I interact with leads quite a lot. So I'm going to star that. And then if I come up here and click on my favorites, that adds that to my favorites. So that's just another opportunity to be able to get to where I need to go very quickly within the application. And again, we'll see some more of that navigation as we get into actual screens today. The final thing I'd like to take a look at from a navigation standpoint is this search bar up at the top. So pretty much any system is going to have a search enabled feature in it, and a lot of times that's searching on specific types of data. But within Acumatica, we like to refer to this kind of as the Google search of the application, because I can type anything in this search box and it's going to crawl through and search everything, not just in my data, but within the application itself. So we were taking a look at adding leads to my favorites list there. Let's say that I forget where to go to find leads. I can type the word lead in, and you'll see under menu items here, it starts finding within the menu structure everywhere that has the word lead in the menu. So I even kind of find myself cheating a lot, and instead of going to, within the menu where I need to go to do a certain function, I find myself just typing it in up there and going straight to it. I guess it's the kind of Google search culture or mentality. But then to make it even better, I can also search everything within the application as well. So what I mean by that is I'm going to start typing in a customer name. So I've got a customer in the system called USA Bartending. So I'm going to type in the word bartend. You'll notice it didn't find any menu items, but if I go to transactions and profiles, it starts finding everything related to the USA Bartending School. And I can kind of start scrolling through the pages here. Now, I did a very generic search, so I started getting everything, but here's my customer, USA Bartending. I can also search by phone numbers, by contact names, by addresses. So not just the name of the customer or supplier or whatever the piece of information might be, but other pertinent information. So great example is customer calls in. They have no idea what their invoice number is, but they have their purchase order number. So they give us a PO number. We just pop that in up the top and get right to the transaction that they have a question about. So to demonstrate showing the transaction side of it, if and in this case I'll just do it by the invoice, but see this AR invoice 2141 here, I can just search by that 2141 and that finds every transaction for me that has a reference number of 2141. So again, that works with everything within the application. So it's a very, very powerful tool. And to put a bow on that, I'll do a search on bartend here one more time. There's also a concept of document management within Acumatica as well. And one thing we'll look at is the ability to tie documents, whether that's an image, a PDF, a Word doc, an Excel file, whatever it might be, to any sort of transaction within the system as well. So if I go search on files, that keyword bartend is searching through my files that are in the system as well. And you'll see in this case we've got a PDF that's linked up to the USA Bartending School here. So it brings that back for me, and I can quickly pull that up. So again, I could do that by content of the file or by the piece of data that's linked to it. So it just becomes a very, very intuitive, very easy way to get around and navigate through the system. And the final thing I want to take a quick look at here before we get into some of the fun CRM stuff is just to direct your attention to the fact that, Jeff said it a few times in the introduction there, the cloud ERP Acumatica. So the whole demo today is going to be done in Chrome. Everything we're looking at is web-based. There's not any sort of client pieces that need to be installed on your local machine. It's not a hybrid of part web, part client, anything like that. It's a 100% browser based here, and it could be accessed with a tablet, with a laptop, with the phone. There's even a native app for iPhone and Android as well. And you'll notice as well, if I kind of shrink this down, that it's designed to be responsive as well. So meaning, everything isn't all smushed up on the screen there. When I go to a smaller screen size, like if this was a tablet, it changes how the screen looks to fit in that smaller window. And then when I expand it here, it goes back out. So again, as a company, Acumatica has been very focused on user experience, almost creating a consumer type of product experience. So, again, that's something you'll see pervasive throughout the demonstration today. So as we jump into some of the good stuff here, the first thing I'd like to take a look at is the marketing section. So in general, as we're talking CRM as a concept, a lot of times that's going to start with marketing initiatives. So whether that's campaigns that we're running, trade shows we're going to, the proverbial business card and a fishbowl type of thing. We're going to have leads, opportunities, contacts, all this information coming in from different sources, and we want to start to be able to manage that as we go through the sales process and the sales cycle. So the first thing I want to take a quick look at is if we come under profiles here, you'll notice we have marketing campaigns. And what this allows us to do is actually set up a grouping, so to speak, or a campaign to say we're going to run a certain promotion, we're going to go to a trade show, and then we can start to measure the results of that particular campaign. So I'm going to take a look at an existing one here, like our New Year's sales campaign here. So there's certain information that we can capture around this campaign. So the name of it, we got to give it an identifier, things like that. When it's starting, when it's ending, but we can even throw some budgetary numbers around it as well. So financially, what our budget is for this particular campaign, what we're expecting to get back out of it, and then add some codes to it if we're you know looking to say, okay, we'll give us code New Year 2019, and you get X number of discount. So we can start to track all of that right here at the very outset of our marketing process. Now, the great thing about this too is you'll notice on the right hand side here of the campaign statistics. So as we start to roll this marketing campaign out and things start to happen from it, all whether that be increasing traffic to the website, so getting more leads, converting those leads to actual opportunities, and then ultimately getting those opportunities to convert to sales, which is our ultimate goal. Anyone can come in that has the rights to do so, look at this campaign, and see those statistics. So you'll even see here that from this campaign, we've generated 44 leads. We've converted 2 of those to actual customers, but we've got 45 opportunities, 14 of those won, and then so right now we're at $510,000 of opportunity value, all generated from this campaign. And you'll see each of these tabs along the top. I can start getting more information about the details of those aggregate statistics on the front page there. So there's all my generated leads and all my opportunities that have been listed from there. So again, it's all about seeing the information we need to see in one place at one time. So that campaign is really kind of what's kicking us off and moving us forward. And from there, we can even say we want to add members to this campaign. So if it's existing customers or existing prospects, we can bulk add those contacts and leads to this campaign and even send out like a mass email marketing to those guys. So we have a lot of tools available at our disposal to be able to kick off that whole marketing and sales process. But then as things start to happen, we get information back from that campaign, we get the phones ringing, we get contact us from websites, however we're, ultimately performing those marketing activities. We want to start collecting that information in the system. So I'm actually going to go ahead and manually create a new lead here. And the reason I specifically said manually there is because you can also set up the process to automatically import these leads from a spreadsheet, for instance. So maybe if we're getting a feed from some outside source where that campaign is running, or even just, for lack of a better word, buying a marketing list, I can get all those in a spreadsheet and bulk import all of these guys as well. So in this case, we're going to put in some basic information for my lead, and I don't need a whole lot of information to be able to save it, but you'll notice that there's a lot of information available for me to be able to track, these leads as they go through the sales process. So I can even give them a status. So as we start, unfortunately, losing some, or if we've suspended them, we can do that. And we can also assign an owner to leads as well. And I'm this Maxwell Baker guy right here, so we're going to assign this lead to me. So it creates a list, ultimately, of leads that I need to work. So giving me a queue of folks that I need to call, folks that I need to contact, and try to ultimately turn them into an opportunity. And then you'll see we have a lot of what I consider basic type of information, so contact, email, phone, that sort of thing, address information. We can classify leads by certain ways, so you can group them up and have different folks work on them by what classification they are. We can track what the source is, where it came from, and even here's tying back to the campaign, so I can say, okay, well, this lead came from this campaign, and that's ultimately what's feeding into those statistics that we saw back on the previous screen. And then, I always like getting contacted by email rather than phone. And then you've got the opt-out type of flags here, so do not call, do not email. And then there's the consent to the processing of their personal data. So we'll go ahead and save this real quick. But what I'd like to point out on this one as well, and see it yelled at me there that they did not consent to the processing of personal data. So let's go ahead and turn that on so we can effectively communicate with them. And you'll notice other tabs of information that we can track as we go through these leads as well. So the things like the campaigns that they're involved in, any marketing list that they're involved in. So we see we automatically have them being added to this new lead marketing list, which automatically sends out a, thank you for contacting us. We look forward to doing business with you type of form email. So there's a lot of marketing automation tools that are, part of the application as well. And then I'll direct your attention to this activities tab, because this is going to be something that's very important, very pervasive throughout the application. Pretty much any record that we see, whether it's a lead, a customer, whatever it might be, we're going to be able to add specific activities to that person. So you'll see things like adding an email, adding a task, adding an activity. So we can do something like adding a phone call. So we get into managing our communications with this individual. So I'll say, gave him a quick call, um, called test, said to call later. Now, that's just a very quick example, but you'll notice that adds that quick call, that phone call here, to this activity section, and I get a little preview of what my notes were on there. So I can add activities, I can add emails, and one thing we'll look at here in just a little bit is my ability to even add follow-up task as well, to remind myself or someone else that I need to take action against this particular entity. And so that's something that starts to create a lot of visibility, not just to sales managers, but to everyone throughout the whole organization. So we're working this lead, we're talking to them, we're calling them, and we saw they were on that particular marketing list as well. So the next thing I just want to take a quick look at is our marketing list here. And that's a supplement to the campaigns, where this is actually giving us the ability to create mailing list. So whether that is for kind of a slow drip campaign for, like my test guy that I just set up there that maybe we don't have a lot of interaction with yet, and we want to send out some mass communications, or it could even be, for a newsletter. So anything that we want to be able to communicate with either future customers or existing customers, we can set up a mailing list right through the app to do that. And we won't get too much into the nitty-gritty out of it, but you'll notice on this list it's set up as a dynamic list, which means I create selection criteria on who I want to be involved in this list. So maybe I want to set up a list for all of my Ohio customers or all of my Texas customers and be able to communicate with them separately via different communications. I can do that through a selection criteria as opposed to manually adding folks to a list. So again, it's a very easy way for me to manage large amounts of data and send out these communications without having to do a bunch of imports necessarily, or do a lot of data management or data entry to keep that up to date and accurate. So kind of flowing through the process here then. So we've completed our marketing activities, we've sent out email communications, we've communicated with this particular lead. So let's kind of talk about what the next step for that would be. So if I go back into my leads here, and we're going to look at my leads, and you'll see Test McTester down here at the very bottom for me. So this is also a great example of a data grid within Acumatica. I see information in this case related to leads. You're going to see the same sort of data grid all throughout the application. So I just want to take a moment here to help understand how I would manage data in these sort of grids. So see here, I'm seeing leads that are lost, some that are already converted. You know what? I really don't care about those right now. I only want to see my new leads that I want to start working and interacting with. So I can just click on status up here at the top, say clear all, and just give me my open ones, or sorry, just give me my new ones if I click on the right button. So now I have a list of just my new leads. And I can manage and sort and filter data by any of these column titles here. So very similar to like in Excel, where I have the ability to manage data that way. I can do the same thing in here. I can come over, I can add and remove columns as I see fit, and I can easily just drag and drop columns as well. So if I want job title over here, I just drag and drop it and it saves that for me. And the best part is I have an easy way to save these as quick filters too. So let's say I always want to just interact with my new and open leads. I can click the little save here, and this updated the My Leads to now only show new ones. And I can even create additional little filters up here at the top so I can quickly jump back and forth between different types of information. So it's all that theme of being able to quickly get to information that I need to interact with. So from here, I'm going to drill down into test. I know that I need to work with him some more, but let's say that I've talked to him again and we're ready to actually, maybe quote something to him. So I can come up here under actions and I can create an opportunity right here from this lead. And you'll see I have the ability to do other actions here as well. So I can convert this to a contact or a business account. So without going off on too much of a tangent, just to explain quickly that a business account is comparable to like a customer account. So it's saying, hey, I've talked to this guy. We're ready to actually, we're going to buy, and I want to kind of jump the process ahead a little bit, create a customer, and maybe cut a sales order right to them. But in this case, we're still a little iffy if we're going to actually purchase anything or not. So I'm going to go ahead and just create an opportunity for test here. So that's taking the information from that lead and actually moving it over into an opportunity. So what the opportunities allow me to do is track everything that's in my sales pipeline, who it's linked back to, who's responsible for it, and what the dollar amount on that particular opportunity is, and the stage of the opportunity. So without going through field by field, I just want to call out a few really important things here. One being the status, obviously if it's new, open, or lost, but then the stage. So this is something that's configurable to match what your sales process looks like. So you'll see here in my demonstration data, I've got a lot of different steps that we go through. You might have a simpler sales process where it's maybe just prospect to demo to close to, whatever it might be. This is configurable to match what your sales process looks like. So I'm even going to jump this one ahead a little bit and put it up to development. And then I'll direct your attention over here to the right and these dollar amounts. So I've got a manual amount where I can just key in what the value of this opportunity is. But the reason this is grayed out initially, and I'm going to go ahead and save it here, is it's actually looking for me to add products to this opportunity. So I can come over to document details, click a plus here, and let's say that this opportunity is for a laptop. And you'll notice the progressive type ahead search there, that when I start typing a word in, it's looking in the item description and the item code for the products. So we're going to quote this computer to Test McTester here at a price of $500, and let's say he wants to order 5 of these guys. So you'll see right away that amount updated based off of the products that I've put onto this particular opportunity here. So we'll go ahead and save this. And now if I come over to details, I want you to notice down here under the forecasting section that the probability of closing this is now at 20%, and that's actually related back to this stage. So as the opportunities move through the different stages and get closer to potentially closing, that probability is going to go up, and that weighted total is going to go up with them as well. So let's say I move this all the way up to negotiation. You'll see that moves that up to 80% now, and the total being 20%. that's again part of the setup and configuration on how you want those weights and probabilities to work. But that's ultimately going to drive, from a sales management standpoint, what that funnel looks like from the least probable all the way down to what it looks like it's going to close. So it really gives you, not just to tie back to those original marketing concepts we were talking about, but to really get a good idea of what's potentially going to close for you in any given period. And yeah, and you'll notice there's tons of tabs on here to track different information. So we're not going to dive into all of that specifically today, but there are a couple other things that I really want to call out on this process, because it all ultimately flows into what you would consider core ERP type of processes. So if I go back to activities, I have the same ability to add emails. So if I want to send an email out to this contact, in this case Test McTester, right from the system, I can do that straight from here. I don't even necessarily have to go out to my Outlook and do that, or just like we did on the lead itself, I can also add everything that I need to do, like a note, a chat, an appointment, all these things right here on the opportunity. So if someone else needs to pick up and work it, if they want to see what I've been doing on it, they're going to be able to come in and see all of that. And I can even add a task to this as well. So task takes it a step further than just tracking what I'm doing right now, and this is actually going to allow me to follow up on this. So let's say I want to make sure to follow up. I can put different dates in here, who owns this task. I can link it to a project. I can set a priority. I can come down here to the bottom and add additional info here. So I can start tracking a lot of these things. So in this case, I just want to save and close this. So you'll see it tracks that task on the opportunity, but what it's also going to do, if I navigate away from the opportunity here, and I'm going to look at a list of all of my tasks. So I have a personal task list. I know there's some folks on the phone that have used Macola 10 or are using Macola 10. This would be kind of comparable to what my workflow would be, or what it would look like. And that it's telling me here's all the things that I have to take action on. And you'll notice right here that automatically goes in. I have this make sure to follow up task now in my to-do list, and right there it shows me what piece of data it's on, so I can drill right into that opportunity and say, oh, I need to follow up with Test McTester here, so I can give him a call and follow up on our initial conversation. So it helps me in not just managing the sales process in CRM, but those tasks are, again, one of those things pervasive throughout. So if it's sales orders, purchase orders, I can create tasks and link those up to any sort of data element that's out there in the system. And let's say I got some additional information back from test here, and I want to link that up to the opportunity here. I can just come in, I can grab that, drag it onto the screen, and now you'll notice at the top of the screen I have a file linked up to this opportunity. It's another one of those pieces of functionality that I wanted to show that is not just specific to opportunities or CRM, but is throughout the application as a whole. So I can do that on customers, sales orders, purchase orders, invoices, any sort of transaction that happens. I can just drag and drop a file onto the screen, and that's going to load up what that file is and save it to the transaction there for me. So just a nice piece of ability to manage documents along with tasks, along with the actual things that I have to do on a day-to-day basis. So it makes that pretty easy, pretty straightforward. So let's fast forward just a little bit, and I'm going to say, we've talked with Test here. They're ready. They actually want the quote for these laptops now. So you'll see the button at the top here of the screen where this says Create Quote. So straight from this opportunity, it's going to go in, look at what I have on the document details here, and I can actually create a quote then from this particular opportunity. And you'll see I have some options around pricing and things like that, but we won't get too hung up on those today. But I can create that quote. Now, I also have the option to create it and then immediately view it, but what I wanted to show is it created this quote here under the quote section. So I can open that quote up, again, easily get into data, and I can submit this quote, meaning that it's going to become the primary quote for this particular opportunity. And right from there, then I can even go ahead and send this quote to the customer, or which will send an email right out, or I can physically print this quote right from here if for whatever reason they want a paper copy of that. So by doing that, when I come back into my opportunity, we'll see here that this opportunity now shows that it cannot be modified because a primary quote has been submitted. So it starts to kind of put some processes in place to tell me, hey, I can't just willy-nilly go change this now. I need to actually decommit the quote, make changes, and then send another quote. But you'll notice I do have the ability to do that. So if I come into the quote, say I want to edit it, that's going to unsubmit it. So now I have the ability to make changes to this opportunity. So let's say they wanted additional, like 5 additional laptops to bump this up to 10 now. I can save that. And now I have the ability to create another quote. And I'll just create this. So now, under my list of quotes, I'm starting to get a revision history as well. So I can see, what happened, when it happened, and what the net result of that was as well. So I can keep track of every quote I've sent. If the customer says, I want 2 revisions back, I'm going to be able to make that the primary quote, and ultimately create the sales order straight from that. So that's where it really gets into the process of being able to integrate well, for lack of a better word. So finally, what I'm going to do for this particular one is I'm going to go ahead and create an existing account on this, and let's say maybe we wanted to switch this out to someone else, because what I want to do then is copy this quote out, and from that primary quote then, I can take that quote, manipulate it, move that around, submit it, do whatever I need to with it, and then from there I have the ability to then send that quote, which will actually, send that back out like we took a look at a second ago, print that, so I can keep going through different iterations of this process. And ultimately, once they're ready to sign off, then I can even take that quote, convert that to a sales order, which is going to take it all the way through. So there's no throwing it over the fence from one application to another. That's going to move it all the way through the processes. And then to kind of put a bow on this, on my task itself, once I've finished that follow-up, I can say complete, and that's going to remove that task from my workflow. So we've started tying our workflow task together with our management of those opportunities and the management of the quoting process as well. So it's all in one system. I have good visibility into it, and it's easy to manage. So the last thing that I'd like to take a look at today is, in that example, we went from a lead to creating an opportunity to quoting that out and turning that into a sales order. So what happens to managing those relationships with the customers moving forward and supporting those customers? So there's a section of the application that kind of falls into that CRM area, but is actually for support. So I can come in and create a brand new case, and this can be used in a variety of ways. So in this instance here, we're seeing all the cases that are assigned to me. I have one closed, one opened. Same sort of thing. I can clear this out and say just show me my open cases. But this can be everything from support type cases, meaning customer calls in, needs help, and it goes to an actual support desk to assist that customer or customer service group, to a customer calls in for a billable type of activity, and you can manage that through the cases as well. And getting more complex, and this really isn't the focus of the presentation today, but there's a whole concept of support contracts and service contracts that tie into this. So some service might be billable, some might not be billable. So you can get somewhat complex with the setup of this. So it's more than just managing communication. It's managing communication that can ultimately flow through for billing purposes, for service level agreement support, things like that. So it can be used in a lot of different ways and helps to, again, maintain good customer service. So we'll go ahead and just look at an existing record here. In this case, I've got some basic information. So each case can have an an identity to it. So this allows them to be routed based on what type of case they are. So you'll see things like billing questions versus a product with support contract. So that changes who's going to be responsible for this, how it gets routed, those sort of things, and again, how we can use it in a variety of ways. In this case, I'm the owner of it. And you'll see things like what the severity of it is, low, medium, high, if it's in escalation, if it's pending closure, and what a status is. So we can track them as they're going through the different areas. Um, Same thing as the other pieces of information we were looking at is we're going to track all the activities that happen on this particular case. So whether that's phone support, email support, a task for someone to actually go out on site and help someone, we have the ability to track all of that. And then the great thing with that is this actually flows all the way through to the customer themselves. So let's say there's a certain group that's working with the support elements here and managing these cases. And let's pull up our good old USA bartending account again, because we're kind of sticking with them. And let's say an AR person goes in to look at what's going on with the USA bartending school here, because they've got a balance of $188,000. So we're probably going to start doing some collection calls on these guys. I have the ability to come over, look at activities. So all the activities that are happening on the cases are showing up here under the customer as well. So maybe as the accounts receivable person, I'm going to come in and look and say, oh man, they've had a ton of cases and they're super angry with us, and this is why they're holding the AR. Or it just gives me a little more visibility into what's actually going on with this customer. And the activities themselves can be configured. So we have a lot of people that like to come in and add a collection note to it, add more specific types of interactions than just the out of the box ones here. But it's all about transparency, information flowing seamlessly from one area of the application to another. And so, in my brain, that's really kind of what customer relationship management or CRM really is. It's not necessarily a software or a particular function. It's a function of being able to track information, see what our sales are going to look like, but then also taking care of customers after the fact, and from an organization being able to see what's going on with the customer and not calling them blind. Or if, on the flip side, if I'm the salesperson and I'm ready to pay this customer a visit and walk in and do a courtesy call, I can see this information on my phone really quickly and say, oh, they've had a ton of cases, they've had a ton of collection calls, so they're probably going to be angry when I walk in, and just kind of prep myself for that. So it's really about getting the right information in the right place and accessible to the right people at the right time. And from an Acumatica standpoint, that's what CRM really is, and what it encompasses. So those are the big pieces that I wanted to make sure we covered today, and I wanted to make sure we had some time at the end here to address any questions that have popped up through the course of it. Again, a lot of the screens, you saw a lot of tabs. There's from a more to show standpoint, there's definitely a lot more to show, but really, hopefully through the course of today, you got a good feel for what Acumatica looks like, how to kind of move around in the application and what it has to offer from a marketing and CRM standpoint, and then that really seamlessly flows into the sales, distribution, manufacturing side of things that we've taken a look at in some of the other sessions. Which I sincerely hope you guys have a chance to go back and look at that too, because I think that completes the whole picture there. So with that, I'll stop blabbing, and I'll turn it over to you, Jeff, and see if we have any questions, and kind of wrap up here.
Terrific, Dave. And I'm glad that you mentioned there that we do have the other presentations that we've gone through. I actually got a text on my phone while you were talking from one of our attendees asking about seeing the core ERP portions of Acumatica, and I apologize. We've covered those in a couple of other webinars, and I'm going to make sure that we send out the recording, the links to the recordings for those to this particular customer. But I wanted to also make that offer again to any of our other attendees that we do have other presentations that we've done here over the last couple of weeks that cover other aspects of the system that we'd be happy to share with you. And obviously, if that leads to additional questions that you have, we can certainly tailor a personalized demonstration to look at the specific parts of the system that you would like to see. Now, we do have questions. So I want to go ahead and go through some of these because we've got a number of different attendees in different places as far as their ERP systems currently. And so I wanted to make sure, let's talk about a couple of the high level ones. So as Dave mentioned, we've got a number of Macola customers that are on the line with us. And so we've got a couple of really high level questions here that I think, Dave, we need to clarify for a couple of our attendees.
Oh, okay.
So first of all, for those of you who are not familiar, the CRM component that links into Macola is called Synergy. And so the first question that we got was, do we need Synergy to use Acumatica? Where is this data for marketing coming from?
So the short answer to that is no. So everything we showed with Acumatica today is all part of Acumatica. So not to get super techy, but if you're running Synergy today, you're familiar with the fact that you essentially have two separate databases and two separate applications with touch points and information synchronizing between those. Within Acumatica, everything's within a single database, and not to take it too far, but there's even a concept of multiple companies and things like that that actually still exist within a single database. So there's not data moving back and forth anywhere. It's all in one spot, and that's why they're able to make things work as smoothly as they do, as there's not any sort of data synchronization or anything like that. It's just different features and functionality utilizing the same data points.
Right. And if I could add to that, Dave, I want to stress this is Acumatica. So this would be a replacement for your Macola environment. And if you already own Synergy, you don't have the separate application situation with Acumatica that you do with Macola and Synergy. But if you are not using Synergy currently, you don't have to look at adding a separate application to connect to your ERP the same way you do in Macola. In Acumatica, it's all in one application, and you can use the parts of the application that are necessary for your business. If you don't have a need for CRM, for instance, then obviously you don't need to use that part of the system to run your business that you may want to use, for instance, the manufacturing components to manage the manufacturing of your particular products. So there is a distinction here. This is a replacement for the existing Macola ERP that you would have, and obviously then there would not be any writing back to Macola or drawing info from Macola on a day-to-day basis. All of that would be brought forward into Acumatica as part of the migration from Macola to Acumatica. I hope that makes sense, and obviously we can answer those questions in more depth offline if you'd like to pursue those a little bit more. Now, Dave, we got a couple of different questions, so
Okay.
I'm going to shift gears here a little bit. So one of the things that we were asked was, what if I work with resellers? And how could I apply the CRM that you were showing to my business? Would it be something like actually managing sales orders instead of managing opportunities?
Yeah, most likely, and we've actually worked with a customer that kind of had a similar situation where they have a whole distributor channel that they're working through. So they didn't necessarily need opportunities, and it was more managed on the sales order side for them. Whereas essentially they had a ship to customer and then a reseller linked to that sales order. Now you could apply kind of that same logic depending on how your distribution channel was structured with the resellers, meaning that you could add the field on to the opportunity there to say here's the reseller account, and then here's who the end user is. It kind of that's when I the short answer is yes, you can absolutely use it with resellers. I'd probably want to have a conversation to understand how your reseller channel is structured before answering that totally, because depending on if you know who the end user is initially, if you care or don't care, could impact how you would set that up. But it's really just kind of a conversation around at what point do you want to start tracking that sale? Is it at that opportunity stage, or is it just when a sale comes in? Both of which are possible.
And actually, Dave, that's a great conversation to have because obviously some of our customers are tracking the relationship with the reseller and not tracking any information about the end user who's ultimately going to be buying their product from that reseller, whereas some others, for instance, if there's warranty on the items, things like that, may be tracking both who the reseller and the end user is.
Exactly. Yeah, and both of which are supported, I guess, for lack of a better word. You could set it up to handle both situations, but that's just why it would require a little more conversation just to understand what your unique situation looked like there.
Perfect. And a follow up from the same questioner or attendee was could resellers could they be set up to have access to the system? And I'm going to lead you, Dave, because I know the answer. And in particular, would they be able to enter sales orders that they were wanting to get into our system as a reseller?
Yeah, we obviously didn't show any of it today, but there is a reseller and customer portal too for to kind of hijack the question a little bit, that can be set up to allow both a customer or a reseller to come in and interact on a very limited capacity with your instance of Acumatica, and basically that's set up. It's a separate website accessing the same data. So, if you set the security up appropriately, they could come in, they can look at orders that are tied to them, they could enter new sales orders for their customers, see what their outstanding balance is, those sort of things. So you'd have the ability to do that.
And obviously, there are additional ways that that capability could be leveraged to free up your sales team and put more of the responsibility onto the reseller if you have that kind of relationship with the reseller. Okay, now we've got a different question. You mentioned about creating contacts, and you mentioned specifically that you were manually creating one as opposed to importing from a spreadsheet. And the question came about that import process. How does it work? Is it a templated where uh, you're basically given a grid and you have to create your spreadsheet to match that grid, or is there a mapping of the information that is in your spreadsheet to particular fields in Acumatica? How does that work?
Yeah, there's actually a functionality within the application, not just for contacts, but for any information that essentially lets you map from a spreadsheet, from other data sources too. I mean, it can get more complex and get into program calls from outside applications. But if we stick just with the spreadsheet, so whether that's an XLS or CSV file, either one's supported, and basically it just allows you to map. So meaning if I, look at the lead screen here, there's a couple fields that are mandatory, and then there's a lot of other stuff that's not mandatory, but it just lets you map and say, okay, this column from my spreadsheet is the first name, this column is my last name, this is the address information, so it allows you to map it, and then you can either manually run that import, or it's something you can also set up to be an unattended scheduled process as well, all through Acumatica's engine. It's not like a Windows process or anything like that to go pick up the file and process it if you're getting them like daily or weekly or something like that. So it's there's some canned out of the box templates that you can use as a starting point, but then you can map anything into any of the screens in the app.
Okay, terrific. Now, while you have that screen up, Dave, somebody did notice the checkbox about consenting to processing of personal data and asked if that was in response to the whole data laws that are and personal data laws that are coming out of, for instance, the EU.
Yeah, I think this is in direct response to the I think the what is it, the GDPR stuff.
Right.
Because this is actually pretty new in Acumatica. Like I think in the previous version, this stuff wasn't even here yet. So this is in direct response to those new requirements.
Okay, and obviously that's a good sign because that's a relatively new regulation that companies are having to um, comply with. And obviously, Acumatica has seen the need for this and developed it and gotten it into the program pretty quickly. Okay, now another question came up, and it was specifically talking about you showed the status or the stage of sale
Mhm.
and how that updates the weighting associated with the dollar amount tagged to an opportunity. Does that information then tie back to, for instance, like a sales funnel that a sales manager could be using to keep or monitor the actual activities of the individual salespeople? Or is there some other reason that that stage of sale weighting might be set up the way that it is?
You well for a couple reasons. So from a visual standpoint, and I apologize, I don't have this set up in my demo data, but initially what you'd want to do is for like a sales manager is take something like one of these charts and demonstrate that visually in a literal sales funnel. But what it also allows you to do then is report against that information and say, okay, here's my projected um, sales or what's projected to close in December, or projected to close in January, and that weighting's a pretty standard type of function. Like if you look at other CRM packages, they kind of have a similar weighting system, just because it helps you to project out based on how far along the deal is, what potentially is going to close. But yeah, to answer the question more directly, there it would just be adding a funnel visualization onto the dashboard if like a sales manager wanted to see that.
Okay. And then the follow-up question that they had was, can they modify what those different stages of the sale are for their particular business and the weighting that they would assign to those different stages?
Yeah, that's all configurable because everybody has a different process, and that's actually even configurable. Like when I come in and do the new opportunity here, um, you'll see I have a class ID here of product, and this is something you can set up different classes, so that drop down can even be different by class. So if you have like a quick sale opportunity versus a longer term type of sales cycle, so that's essentially a sales cycle, and then you can have different stages based on what that sales cycle is.
Oh, okay. So I know that some of our customers would have like a larger strategic opportunity, and then they may also have additional add-on sales for that strategic opportunity that's already been converted to a customer.
Exactly. So that one might have 2 to 3 stages, whereas that strategic one might have 12 stages, or depending on what that process looks like.
Okay. All right, great. And then another question came in about linking documents to the sales opportunity.
Hmm.
Are there, number one, any limitations about linking documents, specifically like things about discovery documents, particular formats, et cetera? And then also, obviously, then with a sales opportunity, wanting to be able to make sure quotes are available for viewing not only by the salesperson but other people within the organization that may uh, come in contact or have relationships with that customer.
Yeah. So the first part of that question, there's really not going to be any limit to what types of documents you can link up. So like I can throw a PDF on here. I can put a spreadsheet on here and see as I drag those over in my files, that gets updated, and now both of those files are linked up to this opportunity there. So there's really no limit to that, or anything, so to speak. And then the quotes. So basically, anyone that you give access to will have the ability to come in and see the actual quotes that are tied to the opportunity. So from a security standpoint, you've got the ability to get down to field level type of access on any screen. So even if there was someone you wanted to be able to come in and see the quote data and print it, you can give them access to the screen, but they might not have access to change anything else on this and just come in and look at the quote. So it's totally visible to anyone that you want to have access to it.
Okay, so obviously, if you do want to have customer service people be able to see the quote or see documents associated with the quote but not make changes to it, you could set that up in the security.
Exactly. So you could give them access here, but they wouldn't have the ability to actually change anything.
Okay, all right, perfect. That is the list of questions that we've gotten here during the presentation. So I see that we've gone actually a couple of minutes past our plan time. So I want to give everybody an opportunity, though, to ask questions. So please feel free to either contact myself, Jeff Jenkins here at Algorithm, or your account manager here at Algorithm, and we'd be happy to try to answer whatever questions you may have. And as I said, if we would like to explore those a little bit further, then we can obviously arrange for a more personalized demonstration of the aspects of the system that you'd like to see. The telephone number, in case you'd like to reach out to us by phone, here at Algorithm is 888-522-8588, and we'd be happy to work with you. Also, you can contact us at salesteam@algorithminc.com. Now, a couple of other housekeeping messages I'd like to let everybody know about. As I said, we've conducted a number of webinars here over the last couple of weeks. We do have those recordings available. You can access them or sign up to access them through our website. And then also, obviously, you can contact anybody here at Algorithm. We'd be happy to share those with you. But I also want to remind everyone that we do have additional webinars planned and coming up, both in the near term and then again after the first of the year. So I'd like to invite anyone to register or to sign up for any of the other webinars that we have coming up soon. Not all of them are specifically about Acumatica. We have a webinar tomorrow about CPM software, and so I would welcome or invite you to take a look at the schedule. And if you are not seeing anything that you would be interested in, then two things. One, please sign up for the notifications from our marketing team because we are constantly adding additional webinars to the calendar. Secondly, upon exiting the WebEx presentation today, you will see a survey that we have asked you to complete. And one of the things that we are always looking for are new ideas for topics for webinars. If there are specific things that either you haven't seen or you would like to see, please let us know that because we are constantly looking for new topics and new ideas for these webinars, and that would be obviously welcome information to get from our attendees. Again, I did mention that we are recording today's webinar. We are going to make that available to our attendees so that you will have the opportunity to share that recording with any of your employees who were not able to attend today's webinar that you'd like to share it with. And then lastly, I'd like to again mention to everybody that there are a number of marketing pieces that we do share with our customers, and we now have the ability, or you now have the ability in our system to manage your email preferences. And if you have questions about that, you can feel free to reach out to either our marketing team, which would be marketing@algorithminc.com, or, as I said, sales team at algorithminc.com. And with that said, I think we're going to wrap things up for today. I want to make a special point of thanking all of our attendees. I realize with the holidays approaching and we're in the fourth quarter, it is a busy time, and we realize that, and we appreciate you taking the opportunity to join us for today's webinar. Also, Dave Dozer, I'd like to thank you for your presentation today. Terrific as always. And obviously, the last thing I want to mention to everybody is because we are in the holiday season, I want to make sure that everybody has a wonderful holiday. And obviously, if you're traveling, please be safe. If anybody here at Algorithm can assist you in any way, please don't hesitate to contact us. And lastly, again, if you would take the opportunity upon exiting to complete the survey, we would appreciate it. Thanks again, everybody. We hope you have a wonderful afternoon and a great holiday season.